Hey everybody, I'm Tony Kriz, and this is Off the Highway, and I'm here today with Dr. Randy Woodley, who is the Director of the Intercultural Studies, um, Masters of Arts at George Fox University. He is also the author of Shalom and the Community of Creation. Randy, here's my question for you. So many people, I think, frame their spirituality around one person themselves, and then some people extend that to include, well, hopefully to include God or the community of God with them. It's like me and God, just me and God. And then some people go a little farther. They go, well, I'm gonna include in also my community, which could be their family, their friends, maybe their church. A lot of people probably are an awful lot like them, actually. And I would just be curious for your commentary on how healthy spirituality requires we go beyond, maybe way beyond, just that view of me and God or me, my community and God.
Yeah. So I think you have to start with a place.
There you go.
So God makes us real human beings to put real feet on real ground in a place that has a social, historical, religious, spiritual history. And this is something that because the sort of big category of theology has been hijacked by mostly white Western folks over all these years, and they have no theology of place. And the reason I think that they resist having a theology of place is because all of a sudden I realize, number one, we all have equal footing. Nobody has the abstract truth that can be generalized for everybody then. If you have a local theology of place, then you can't just say this is true for everybody everywhere, and now you're not an expert, right? And we really like our experts, especially in academia. So, and the second reason is it's very difficult to start a theology of place when the very ground you stand on is stolen, right? So, especially for those who are trying to follow Jesus, and we know that that's not very nice. So, so you have to begin with the ground that you're on, the history of the ground that you're on, the spiritual history, the social history, what God has done over time and on that place. And now, how do I enter into this place? If I'm a good guest, then I'm going to go to my host, which there are host peoples on every piece of land around, even if they've been moved out. And I'm going to say, help me to figure out what's the best way to honor God, this land, and you, the people who have stewarded it or co-sustained it for so very long. What can I do on this place that will help not just me, but help you and help the land? Now, that's where spirituality begins, and with me, that's where spirituality, I think, should begin with all people. And if we don't do that, it's a bit of sort of docetism. It's a bit of the idea that we're not really real beings resting on a real place, but we can just be who we are, sort of in this amorphous, floating world, and then make these universal principles that apply everywhere we go. And I just don't think that that's what I see in Scripture, and I don't think that ethically is even how we should be doing it. Again, that's the use of power over people rather than submitting ourselves to people. And that's exactly what Jesus taught.
Randy, your book says the community of creation. Could you just talk about how that sense of place extends beyond just my human neighbors to my non-human neighbors as well?
Yeah, so we're all connected. We're all related. What happens with one species or one animal near me is related to me. Where things nest their heads and what I allow on my property, for example, to be here, and what I even category as a weed and a flower or a plant. All those kinds of weird extrinsic categorizations that we make that exclude everybody. Well, I think God's community is a community of all creation, where it's just as important for me that the whale fulfills its purpose in life as human beings fulfill their purpose as other animals and plants and even minerals fulfill their purpose. And so each thing has to be seen in its own set of sort of ethical standards. And it's hard for people to get how that, can be non-hierarchical. So how can we have that without thinking that humans are on top of everything, which is sort of what the Christian tradition has been. And if we understand that we each have a particular role to play, that creators put each species, if you will, if you want to use that scientific term, on Earth to fulfill its role, and that each is related to the other in one way or another. So the most obvious thing we've had in the last few years is this the problem with bees, right? So, and we began to realize that, wow, so much of what we eat is pollinated by bees, and if we didn't have the bees, we'd all, there'd be a lot of starving people. So we can't mess around with God's creation in that way, and the way that we do it so haphazardly is to say that we are over that, but we're not. We're just a part of it. We're one part playing our role, and fortunately, human beings have this sort of unique role. At least in my own Ketua beliefs, is that we are to intermediate whenever there's trouble with the rest and help bring about harmony. So that's part of our role.
Shalom and the community of creation. That's Dr. Randy Woodley. Thank you, Randy.